She's Katie Montgomery. He's Justin Joseph. These best friends are serving subpoenas to bad advice weekly with Wrong Way Forward. Now, here's Katy and Justin.
Hi, and welcome to Wrong Way Forward. My name's Katy Montgomery, and I am here with my best friend, Justin Joseph, and we are talking about Wrong Way Forward. And Justin, first of all, I wanted to check in with you. I missed you last week. You were on a European vacation. How was it?
I was, I've always said I was embarrassed to say I'd never been to London or Paris. And so we did both of those. And I used ChatGPT and booked a trip from top to bottom and really put a lot of time into the guides and everything. And we enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought both London and Paris were amazing cities and the people were lovely. And I can't speak highly enough about it, to be honest with you. We didn't have one bad experience. So
that's amazing. Well, we were talking, the two of us, that maybe we need to have a European broadcast of Wrong Way Forward. So hopefully we can book that in the future and broadcast from across the pond.
I love that. And I know you're going to set us up here in a minute, but what I will say is we were over there in London on Tuesday night when we noticed several high-end parties that were happening at hotels, and we were like, what's going on? And the BAFTA awards were playing. We were on the north side of the river, just across the river, across the bridge was the BAFTA awards, which Prince William and Kate were at. And that sets up what we're talking about this week.
It is. So I think, Justin, what happened at the BAFTA awards was just a case in Wrong Way Forward times 3. I think that this was just a chaotic disaster that could have been prevented. So to give our listeners a little bit of background, there's a man named John Davidson who has Tourette's, and he is a Tourette's spokesperson. He's an advocate, and there is a movie that is based on his life called I Swear. And I'm going to put my glasses on, and I had to use the phonetic spelling of this, but he has a type of Tourette's called coprolalia. I probably mispronounced that, but this is about 10 to 15% of the population with Tourette's that goes beyond language and tics, but can go into using minority, racial, or ethnic slurs, discussing someone's genitals. Justin, you'd hate this, talking about excrement, talking about sexual acts. And so John Davidson has, from what I understand, this type of Tourette's where he uses foul language, the F word, and can yell out a potential ethnic slur. And before the BAFTAs began...
Do you mean the N-word? The F word would apply to me.
Yes. Well, I was going to get to the N-word, but he does...
What's
did
the
yell
other
out
F
the
word?
F word a few times.
The F word that applies to me?
Oh, no. I'm talking about the F word that's 4 letters, that you can put the word mother in front of it and ER behind.
Fuck. The word is fuck. Yes, got it. I was not talking about that F word. The F word in my world means a whole different animal.
Yes, it means like a bag of sticks, I think.
It rhymes with baguette of sticks.
Justin. So anyway, Alan Cumming, who's one of your favorites, he's the host of Traders, gave kind of a little speech at the beginning and said, someone is in the audience who has Tourette's and has an involuntary tic and cannot control, and you might hear language that might be offensive.
Oh, he did say that. I didn't know that.
He did. He gave a warning, and usually what happens with this type of Tourette's is that it comes out not just as a comment, it comes out as like a very loud comment. That's part of the neurological tic, is that it's you can hear it across an auditorium. And then unfortunately, Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, who are both from the movie Sinners, which, if you've not seen it, is a fantastic movie. They're presenting the
Did you think so? I watched
I
Clean Bath
loved
from
it.
London. I thought it was bizarro. Anyway,
the
different
dance
story.
scene in it, I thought was so clever and so interesting. It just kept my attention the entire time.
Okay.
But they're presenting the very first BAFTA of the night.
And so the people who don't know what BAFTA is, that's the British version of the Oscars.
Correct. And it's part of the kind of awards season. It's like, there's the SAG Awards, there's the Golden Globes, there's the BAFTAs. And so we start to get a sense of who might take that Oscar home. And so everybody's, paying attention. And it's being aired. So it is being filmed and aired. And John Davidson yells out rather loudly the N-word while these two men are on stage.
Now, here's where Katie and I diverge. We are going to play you a portion of what happened. Obviously, it has been bleeped out because we're not going to broadcast or publicize that word that they use. Katy is uncomfortable with playing it. I am not, because the clip we're playing is actually from NBC News. And so I think the question is, why are we talking about this today, Katy?
Well, I think we're talking about this today because I have really been struggling with this. Is that, was it the wrong way forward for John Davidson to attend this event?
Okay. I think that's a good setup. So we're going to play you the portion of the BAFTA Awards, and you're going to hear Michael B. Jordan. Who was the other actor who presented?
Delroy Lindo, who's also in Sinners.
And this is them giving an award. And then it is bleeped when this person with Tourette's yells out the inappropriate word. So we'll play that and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Good evening. Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
So that's basically what it was. Two actors came up, they said they're presenting an award, and then this person yells out the inappropriate word.
Right. And I have to say, I was having a conversation this morning with someone, and I think there's a continuum of foul language or inappropriate language. You know, at the kind of innocent end could be the words like hell, damn. It progresses to shit. You know, then you can get into kind of F-bombs and versions of that. I would go ahead and say that I think the N-word is a universally offensive word that is not tolerated, nor allowed. And I think most people would say on the scale, it is kind of the most offensive of words.
100%. And I don't think there's anybody who would disagree with that.
Right. And so I think we've got multiple pieces involved in this because, first of all, do you think it was the wrong way forward for John Davidson, who has a condition, he has a disease, and he did give kind of a comment that said, you know, this was not intended. This is a neurological tic. But these two, you know, African-American men had to stand there and hold themselves with composure when they're hearing this incredibly offensive word. Do you think it was the wrong way forward for John Davidson to accept the invitation and attend the event?
Well, I guess I need to know more about him. Now, I, like you, also Googled this condition because the first thing I thought is, why does someone with Tourette's always go to the most offensive thing that could possibly be said? And I was curious about that. And that's when I found the same word that you talked about, the C word that I can't remember, colloquial or whatever it was.
Yeah, make sure when you say C word and we're talking about foul language.
It is whatever the specific condition is that applies to 10 to 15% of people with Tourette's, where they immediately go to, if they saw me, they would say the F word. If they saw someone black, they may say the N word. So I guess it's a condition that applies to 10 to 15% of people. So I guess my thought is I don't know John Davidson. I don't know anything about him. But if I were whomever is taking care of him or handling him, even in terms of whether it's his PR team, obviously he was nominated for a movie. Is that right?
No, someone was nominated for a movie that was based on his life.
Based on his life, okay.
Yes.
So whomever is in charge of that movie, obviously they have a strong PR team that comes with the territory. And so if this person has a history of doing that, I do not think it was the right way forward for him to be there. You know, if this was a one-off, and again, I don't know anything about Tourette's. If it was a one-off, then I don't think, I think that there is not I think it is excusable if this is a one-off, even though what he said obviously is totally inexcusable. What do you think?
I mean, I think this is the thing that I'm really struggling with. I think I agree with you. And I think the reason is that I'm thinking about it this way. This was people who have gotten to the pinnacle of their career. They have worked their entire life. This is a good indicator of a Golden Globe. This is a good indicator of a Academy Award. A lot of people say that sometimes the SAG Awards and the BAFTA Awards mean even more because it's voted, not by the, general industry, but it's really voted by your fellow actors. And I just wonder if it should get to a decision point for him to say, this is their night. And unfortunately, I do have a condition that I cannot control, and I should be able to participate widely in events, but I can't control this. And I don't want to put someone in a very public and compromising situation on a night when they're celebrating their craft and getting an award. Because what happened is his condition, and it does bring I think some attention and some knowledge and discussion around his condition, which is important and probably what he's doing as an advocate. But it really hijacked what happened that night in the celebration of a craft. And so, again, I don't have this condition, and so I don't feel like it's fair for me to say this, but I think I might have foregone the invitation.
Yeah. And I think it brings up the question of what's the intent here. If you're in a situation that is supposed to be serious and there's a disruption and it's involuntary, don't we look at the intent to decide whether or not that is an excusable event? And I know I've been there.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm really fascinated to know on the back end if when the PR group or when, John Davidson himself spoke and said, look, we're going to have a cautionary kind of comment before the filming begins. I wonder if he was completely honest and said, I'll drop some F-bombs, which he did very early in the show before he dropped this terrible N-word. But I wonder if he was completely upfront and said, look, there's a very good chance that I might use an ethnic slur or a racial slur. I think that, again, we're playing a whole nother ball game.
I agree. And it'd be interesting because he's done no press after this, right? We have not heard, no one's interviewed him and said, tell us. It's actually could be a very good learning moment if handled appropriately by the right people.
And he did give a statement afterwards. I think after he said the N-word, I think he did excuse himself from the event. And he later said, I apologize for how this landed. I had no intention in it. But again, very uncomfortable. And I think what we should do now, Justin, is take a break and come back to how the wrong way forward continued after this word was dropped on behalf of the BBC and potentially Alan Cumming.
All right, we'll be back right after this.
You've been listening to Wrong Way Forward, where bad advice goes to die and then gets resurrected just so we can roast it again.
If you're enjoying the chaos, hit like and subscribe and come back every Thursday for new episodes.
Have a new topic or some disastrously bad advice you want to dissect? Email wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Include your contact info.
Now back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward, where we are taking on the BAFTA Awards and the completely inappropriate and very questionable decision to allow someone with Tourette's and a specific kind of Tourette's who yelled out an inappropriate word during the broadcast. The broadcast was carried live, and the word was actually said on open air. And so we're talking about a number of things that went wrong and what was the right way and wrong way forward. And so when we left to break, we were talking about, can you be excused for being inappropriate during a very serious moment? And it's happened to all of us, and I think I'm the king of it. What came to my mind, Katie, is if you remember, you came to visit me. This was, 10 years ago, and we went to one of my aunt's parties, and my uncle, who had advanced Alzheimer's, came up to you.
He did.
And he acted like he had known you for years and just starts immediately jumping into you about like, how have you been? Tell me about this. And I could see your face, the blood ran on your face, because I was trying to keep it together and not laugh.
You were, and you did. But I want to say, Justin, and was it 10 years ago? It was like 25 years ago.
Maybe.
10 years ago, I could have handled myself better, but I think I was. My eyes got really big, and I didn't understand what was going on. I had never engaged with someone who had Alzheimer's.
Or there was the time that I had made a new friend, and he happened to be touring in town as a singer. He was at the local Broadway, or he was at the Christmas show. I don't know why you were in town, but you remember he came over to my parents' house and he decided he wanted to do a solo.
Yes.
He was singing a solo for about 30 people, and you and I were just trying not to laugh. Do you remember?
I know. I think I looked at you and I said, think about dead people.
You said
it was
dead
the
people,
only
dead
thing
people,
to keep us from
dead
laughing.
People. Yes. Not that that's close, but it is being inappropriate during a serious time, and that's really what we are talking about today.
Oh, but I think that, Justin, I have to give John Davidson a break here. We could control our behavior. He has a neurological tic. He has absolutely no control over what's happening. We were just assholes.
Shocking. Okay. So that was not a good example, but it does make me feel the same way. It was inappropriate at the time, and that's what we're talking about this week. So then host Alan Cummings, who, as you said, I adore, got the fun task of going up and apologizing for this. So we're going to play this, what he said, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Here's what he said coming back.
You may have heard some strong and offensive language tonight.
As BAFTA Awards host Alan Cummings,
This is a
about an hour and
commentator.
20 minutes into the ceremony, after several outbursts were heard throughout the show.
If you've seen the film I Swear, you will know that film is about the experience of a person with Tourette syndrome.
So that's what Alan Cumming came back and said on the other side. Your thoughts on that? I mean,
Well,
impossible
I-
position to be in.
I actually wrote down what he said, which is he has no control over his language. We apologize if you are offended. I think that is a non-apology. We apologize if you are offended. I would have hoped that he spoke with more forceful language and said, the language spoken is incredibly offensive. We know you were offended, and we do not tolerate that language. However, this was involuntary and was not with an intent because this person has Tourette syndrome. And so I think a lot of people are having a problem with the apology because it was a non-apology. And to say, if you were offended, it wasn't forceful enough to say, because in my world, that is a word that is never spoken.
Right, 100%. Yeah, and that's actually a good topic that could be a future is the way you apologize, right? There is a right way and a wrong way to apologize, and I think very few people have mastered that art. But I agree with you. The apology could have been much stronger. And I wonder if it was on teleprompter. I'd love to know all of those facts. Like, did the producers write that for him? Did he write it himself? Anyway, and he has come out and has been, he came out with other statements on his Instagram afterwards, etc. But what was also shocking to me is the fact that these people live in the space where that someone in the back room has their finger on the bleep button.
Right.
And they get 15 seconds, and they did not decide to bleep the word. But meanwhile, someone says an inappropriate joke about anything, and it gets bleeped. And so to me, it was also the wrong way forward that the broadcast didn't handle this correctly.
Well, and I think what's crazier than that is, from what I understand, is that this piece was out on iPlayer, and they didn't bleep it for what was then being played after the BAFTAs completed.
The rebroadcast.
So, I mean, what kind of dumbasses were, making the decisions that day? And it leads to a lot of people to believe, is this not offensive? Do we not take this serious? Is there still this kind of, racism that exists? And so it's like the wrong way forward that just keeps in triplicate. It's like it keeps coming.
I totally agree. I will say, it does make me want to watch the movie. I want to know more about this. Like I said, this could be and should be a teaching moment.
Well, Justin, I don't know if you're going to be able to handle it, because if he talks about excrement and you really hate bathroom stuff, you might not be able to.
Yeah, but I don't think. Yeah. Well, I'll let
He
you
also
know.
might talk about genitals and sexual acts. You don't care about those two things either.
No, but it also reminds me when I saw Vagina Monologues, and it was so uncomfortable. I was sweating. I was crying profusely. I was laughing profusely. I was so uncomfortable. Because
I did not know you went and saw that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I literally thought it was the funniest thing ever, but I was just so deeply uncomfortable that I was sweating in places that I didn't know I sweat, and I'm sure that's how I would react to I Swear the movie as well. So
I'm sure,
anyway.
definitely.
All right, so last week we had author John Rosenberg on, and Katie, what was your takeaways from that?
Well, my takeaways is he's a fantastic coach, and he's got me thinking about when I am kind of in that survival protection mode, how to get into that place where I'm aware, I'm inquiring, and I'm reframing. And so it's really stuck with me.
Yeah, I agree. And some viewers wrote in as well. And I think everybody, what was funny is you and I went back and forth whether it was a good fit for the podcast and Wrong Way Forward. And after listening to him, I could not think of a better fit for so many of the things that we talk about. Do you agree?
I could not agree more.
And some viewers wrote in and had the same thoughts. Hi, Wrong Way Forward. Your guest talked about how we trade thriving for success, and I feel personally vindicated. I spent my entire 30s chasing promotions, money, and status, and I got all three. What I also got: insomnia, acid reflux, and a weird obsession with productivity podcasts. So anyway, I think it hit home on a lot of people who listen.
It did. And I think what would be great is if we can get some more examples and hear from some other people and try to kind of, break down so they can have this kind of skill set and awareness about bringing agency to their lives, to hopefully get them into that space where they can thrive.
Yeah, and agency, that to me, that word is so frightening to me. I don't know why. It's not that I don't like how he used it. Obviously, I think he's a brilliant guy, but I think the word is intimidating.
Oh, that's interesting. I love the idea of this. Well, would you rather hear empowerment?
Yeah, maybe. Yes, maybe. I don't know. I feel like the word it makes me feel less power, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
anyway, that was just a reaction to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we will have him back again, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Something that I want to talk about, Justin, when we come back, and it is the obsession in Washington, D.C., where I live.
Interesting.
Everyone is talking about it. It is Love Story on Hulu, and it is about the romance between Carolyn Bessette and JFK Jr. So when we come back, want to talk a little bit about that.
We'll be back after this.
Thanks for streaming Wrong Way Forward, the weekly reminder that advice is usually free for a reason. We call out bad advice wherever it hides: boardrooms, break rooms, and even book clubs.
Enjoying this dumpster fire? Like, subscribe, and check back every Thursday for new episodes. Want us to roast your favorite piece of nonsense? Email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to include your contact info. We're not psychic, just judgmental. And now, back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin.
Hi, and we're back, and we're going to talk a little bit about Love Story, which is about the romance between Carolyn Bessette and JFK Jr. And Justin and I were talking about this. I had listened to the book that it's based on and loved it. And everyone I know is talking about it. And it's kind of crazy, Justin, because they passed away in an airplane in 1999.
Yeah,
so we were very young. I mean, I was just graduating from law school. A lot of my friends, were just graduating from college. And I don't think we really knew about their kind of lives and their romance. And it's actually really fun to watch it because it brings in a lot of nostalgia. I mean, it brings in what New York City was like then, the music that we listened to, what were the clothes. And I am loving it. And I think that it portrays them as real people who loved each other, who struggled with being it just kind of royalty, at being in the public eye all the time and being chased by paparazzi. But what I think is so funny is what a cultural phenomenon it's become. Like, people are now seeing men wearing berets, like JFK Jr. in New York. And, people are seeing, women bring back the Levi's and the white Oxford, that Carolyn wore. And people are talking about how attractive the two stars are. And if I had $1 for every time I've heard this, I'm like, they're even more attractive than the real Carolyn and JFK Jr.
Which is a high bar.
High bar. And everybody is just obsessed with it, which I think is fascinating. And, I guess, Justin, why do you think people are fascinated with it? Is it because there are royalty, or is it because we're in the age group that this is bringing back a lighter time? This is bringing back when we had a really attractive couple that we could follow and be interested in.
Well, it's an interesting question. My immediate thought goes to, and because this is where my crazy head goes to, is there was something fascinating to me about the fact that they got in their private plane to fly to their private island or wherever the Kennedys live, someplace very exclusive. And they crashed in the ocean and died at the bottom of it. That to me is such a tragic ending to a bigger than life story. And I think that really does, for me, bring a lot of intrigue to it. It wasn't like they just got old. They died in a tragedy, like something Shakespeare would write.
Yeah. And what's even more sad is that Carolyn's sister was on that plane. And so a parent lost not one, but two children in the same day. But I think what's more interesting and related to kind of what we talk about here is, again, the wrong way forward. And some of you may know Jack Schlossberg. I think I'm pronouncing his last name correct. But this is Caroline Kennedy, JFK Jr.'s sister's son.
JFK Jr.'s sister's son, yes. And she's lovely.
She is lovely. But her son, if you give him a camera, he's jumping in front of it. I mean, this guy wants his 15 minutes of fame.
100%.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I had no idea who he was until I think it was probably the last convention. Mm-hmm. And one of the networks, he would, like you said, he could not find a camera that he wasn't in front of, and he was all over it. And I just thought he was very full of himself. I'd never heard of the guy, and now I think he's running for Congress, isn't he?
He is running for office, and and he's taken some positions that might be hard for the family, and and I appreciate him standing up for values. But I think what's interesting is, he said, that Ryan Murphy's interpretation, Ryan Murphy is the producer on this love story, is that it is a grotesque display of someone's life and that it's pure fiction. Well, first of all, I did the math. Jack was born in 1993 in January. JFK and Carolyn Bessette died in, I think, June or July of 1999. This kid was 5.5 years old when his uncle died. I could tell you, I have a nephew who's about that age. If you spoke to him at age 33, I don't think George, would be able to speak about my romantic life or lack thereof. And so, first of all, what do you know? And number two, first of all, it's just bringing more attention to it. So if you find it grotesque, keep it to yourself, because grotesque, the first thing people are going to want to do is go watch it to confirm that. And number three, everyone I talk to does not see it as fantastical or grotesque or rude. They actually see it as real and really showing a true love relationship. And so I find his handling of this the wrong way forward, and he's ruining my viewing pleasure.
I find everything about him the wrong way forward. I really have found him objectionable from the minute, they say TV, you can tell authenticity on TV in 2 seconds. And the minute I saw him, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to drive me nuts. And he has to this day. He's lived up to that. So I'm sure if Ryan Murphy would have just put him, even as a 5-year-old child, in the movie for 2 seconds, he would have been totally fine with it.
Oh, 100%. I could not agree more.
But on that note, Ryan Murphy, I've liked some of his stuff. I've disliked some of his stuff. It just depends. He's all over the board for me.
Yeah. And and he is very prolific. But what I love is that it's been a while since there was a TV show that everyone was talking about. I have a few friends who aren't big TV people, and I just love the excitement and people talking about it and people waiting for it the next week and talking about the fashion and talking about Calvin Klein and talking about the relationship and kind of taking me back to kind of the late 90s. And so Jack needs to shut it. And we would love to hear from our listeners. What do you think about Jack's behavior? And what do you think about Love Story? You can drop us an email at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com or connect with us on any of our social media platforms.
And that includes texting us at 720-251-4450. Again, 720-251-4450. We want to hear what you have to say. And that's this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, that's a wrap on this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. Remember, the only thing worse than taking bad advice is giving it.
If you've liked what you've heard, like, subscribe, or follow us wherever you stream podcasts. And if you've got a topic or need some advice we'll probably regret giving, email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward.